The Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister named in a shocking Nygard video. The F&M chairman hits back at anti-nationalism accusations. A prison officer brought before the courts. Plus, we'll tell you how you can win tickets to see megastar Rihanna in concert. We've got those stories and a lot more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and MB12 starts right now. Philip Davis is accusing the Tribune newspaper of creating political mischief by publishing what he described as an untested affidavit to smear his character. His response was prompted by publishings of excerpts from a 410-page affidavit in which Florida investigator John Joseph DePaulo asserted that over the last 2 to 3 years, millionaire fashion mogul Peter Nygard masterminded an aggressive campaign of harassment, intimidation, and violence against individuals in the Bahamas, including his billionaire neighbor Louis Bacon and a few well-known Bahamians fighting him in court. And in videos recently placed online, the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister are named repeatedly. Kyle Joaquin reports.
The videos are loaded with explicit language, but in what appears to be a secret recording in a vehicle, Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygard could be seen and heard having conversations with two men purporting to be hitmen. In the 410-page affidavit, the investigator also claimed that campaign included a conspiracy with at least 2 Nassau-based gang members to have Bacon, Fred Smith, Pericles Malis, and Tribune business editor Neil Hartnell murdered. That affidavit served as the basis for court action by those 5 plaintiffs from the Save the Bays campaign. They filed a writ against Nygard and lawyer Code Smith, seeking an order restraining them from seeking to or conspiring to murder, assassinate, kill, injure, threaten, harass, harm, or intimidate the plaintiffs. That court action was supported by a series of what was said to be secretly acquired videos and sworn depositions purporting to document secret meetings between Nygard and cohorts allegedly hired by him. On one of those tapes, the men asserted that Davis had told them to watch Nygard's back because he was the sponsor and the hired men, his muscle. The men and Nygard also allegedly made repeated references to their connections with both Philip Davis and Prime Minister Perry Christie, with Nygard even accusing Mr. Christie of lacking courage. Nygard also allegedly mentions a secret deal.
There's a secret deal with me so I could build my stem cell clinic at Nygard Key. And therefore, Lyford Key doesn't want to have any businesses like that in there, but meanwhile the government's plotting to do it anyway. There's a secret deal for me.
In the video, Nygard is heard saying he had a meeting with the Prime Minister the following day. The Canadian fashion mogul hasn't kept it a secret that he was a financial backer of the PLP in the last election. But in the video, he could be heard speaking of how the PLP can't win the next election without him and his team.
With huge pressure on PM now from every cabinet minister, from Gibson Shane, from you guys, from everybody. Without you guys and me, they lose the election. You guys got control of the field and I got control of the finances,
On the tape, one of the men asserted that Davis had told them to watch Nygard's back. But Davis has dismissed that affidavit as untested and described as irresponsible the local daily's use of the document to make allegations which he feels smear his character. In a statement, he wrote, "It is astounding that a newspaper of record would stoop to such nonsense. This is indeed a new low, even for the Tribune. I condemn it." Davis accused the paper of printing the affidavit only to create political mischief, saying, "This kind of political gamesmanship is unbecoming." He wrote, "It is clear from the Morning Daily story that I have no connection to this matter, so it is clear that the only intention is to smear." He called the action shameful and expressed his deepest disapproval of what he branded the uncivil, indecent, uncultured act by the Tribune. And when asked about it yesterday, Davis denied knowing anything.
I know nothing about it, and I from what I read, this matter is in the court, and it would be appropriate for me to comment on it.
The 5 plaintiffs in that action have also asked the court for an injunction to prevent Nygard and Code Smith from arranging or organizing any meetings, parades, junkanoo rushes, street parties, or demonstrations against the plaintiffs. Coach Smith released a statement as well today denying those allegations. Reporting for NB12, Kyle Joaquin.
Free National Movement Chairman Michael Pintard is responding to Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell after Mitchell released a statement calling on Pintard to end politics when it comes to issues concerning the sovereignty of the country. Simone Davis has the details.
Mitchell was responding to a statement sent by Pintard earlier this week, calling for a full explanation on why 2 Cubans were unlawfully imprisoned since 2013 and released last month. Mitchell added that Pintard's probe proves that the Free National Movement cannot resist standing up for foreigners rather than for Bahamians, while accusing the senator of anti-nationalism. Pintard defended his party, calling Mitchell's claims completely ridiculous and nonsensical.
To brand those persons who question whether or not he is being transparent, and in some cases persons have asked whether he is being truthful, to brand them as anti-Bahamian or anti-nationalist is an attempt once again by Mr. Mitchell to deflect, to misdirect. We have a track record of seeking, in our view, to put Bahamians first. Could the F&M have done even a better job? Of course. Every organization ought to be improvement driven. The question is the PLP living up to that slogan of putting Bahamians first? I believe any survey, scientific or otherwise, would indicate Mr. Mitchell is certainly not in a good position to talk about his government's commitment to Bahamians.
In his statement on Tuesday, Pintard demanded that Mitchell provide evidence that Carlos Pupo and Lazaro Marin had criminal records in the United States.
Bahamians in general, members of the media, members of the Free National Movement have been asking, how is it possible for you to give one representation to your cabinet colleagues in November that the 2 Cubans were in fact had cleared all security checks and were safe to be released in the general population, and a few short months later you're now branding them a national security threat? It appears on the surface that Mr. Mitchell has misled the House of Assembly in his statements, which he has not yet provided any documentation for in terms of verifying some of the claims that he made as to why he branded the folks national security risk.
It was later reported that Pupo and Marin have since returned to the United States. Last Friday, the men filed writs against Mitchell, Attorney General Allison Maynard Gibson, and Department of Correctional Services Commissioner Patrick Wright. They are reportedly seeking damages for alleged battery, assault, false imprisonment, breaches of the constitutional rights, and malfeasance in public office. Pintard asserted that he believes the men were well within their right to file lawsuits. He also called for Mitchell to resign or be removed from his post, stating that Mitchell is disingenuous and his behavior is inappropriate.
He ought to answer the questions put to him. He has not done it. And we share the view. He is unsuitable to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration. The Prime Minister should release him of his duties. He's not above the law, and he behaves consistently in that way.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
A female high school student is dead tonight after police say she was struck in the head with a rock this morning. Details are few right now, but police say the 16-year-old was hit with the rock while riding a public bus shortly after 8 o'clock. The incident reportedly occurred in the area of Lazaretto Road in the Carmichael Road area. The girl was rushed to hospital, but as we said, she died this afternoon. Police are investigating. A prison officer charged in court today with alleged possession of drugs with intent to supply. Giorgio Bain has that story.
A former correctional officer was brought before the magistrate's court this morning on drug charges after reportedly being found with 10 ounces of marijuana. Former correctional officer of the Bahamas Department of Corrections Earl Dean was brought before Magistrate Andrew Forbes to answer to allegations of possession of dangerous drugs and possession of dangerous drugs with the intent to supply. It is reported that the officer was arrested on Wednesday, March 9, 2016 by officers from the Drug Enforcement Unit at the entrance of the Bahamas Department of Corrections after they allegedly found a tape package containing just over 10 ounces of marijuana in his possession. Dean, a resident of Augusta Street, pled not guilty to all charges. The trial will begin on May 9th. Dean was denied bail and will be remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until his trial begins. Reporting for NB12, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
Senator Lanisha Roll's recent apology for her controversial comments about F&M MPs could have been better, according to Archdeacon James Palacios. While calling on the PLP to apologize for its role in the failure of the 2002 referendum, Palacios noted political leaders aren't too good at admitting faults, and he mentioned Senator Roll as an example.
We need to be big enough to admit when we either misspoke or when we misact, when we act improperly. But our society isn't very good, especially for us leaders. We aren't very good at admitting when we are wrong. It's the same thing too with this senator's remarks in the F&M. Same thing. 1 month later, you could come out and say you're sorry. Come on. We need to be far more mature.
Roll sparked a firestorm back in January after she accused some sitting F&M MPs of being jealous and envious of F&M leader Dr. Hubert Minnis and accused them of misusing their positions of power for self-serving interests. Central Grand Bahama MP Nico Grant demanded a public apology from Roll. For more F&M MPs, Loretta Butler-Turner, Hubert Shipman, Richard Lightbourne, and Theo Neely also issued a statement calling for Roll to apologize. And last week, more than a month after her initial comments, Roll apologized for any harm she inflicted, stating, "To the extent that any person would have been offended by any part, or to the extent that they would have been offended by my comments, I do apologize."
If she had those comments to make, like most people would say, they should have made them behind closed doors. And now she is admitting, somewhat anyway, and I say somewhat because it's not, from what I read, it's not an unequivocal retraction. You know, if you're wrong, you see, you don't say you apologize if what I say offended you.